Thank you, Mr. Bansal, for this great privilege. And of course, Abhay Kumarji, and as a tribute to him, I'm going to sort of modify a poem that you quoted in your book, and I think which summarizes it. And this was written by a scholar, a monk named Bagisa, and I will just mildly tweak it. And it says, deep in wisdom, intelligent, expert in a variety of parts. This is you, sir. Sariputra, Abhay Kumarji, so greatly wise, teaches Dhamma to the mendicants and all of us here. He teaches in brief, or he speaks at length. His call, like a minor bird, overflows with inspiration. While he teaches, we listen to his sweet voice, sounding attractive, clear and graceful, as do the eloquent words in his book. We listen joyfully, our hearts are beating.
Wonderful.
I really didn't know what else to say about a book that I found so very meaningful and useful. I unfortunately, perhaps fortunately, am not a scholar. I am a sadhika, I'm a student, I'm an aspirant, so I do not have the scholarship of of Mr. Carpenter, of Abhay Kumarji, and certainly of Sunena. So my thoughts when I was reading the book and listening to the other panelists, a very important acknowledgement. I want to celebrate Ambassador Vashwati Mukherjee. We are friends for 54 years, and so I just wanted to celebrate you. And she too has embodied in her work, and you know, we used to do programs together for radio in Yuvani and have explored numerous ideas and subjects. So thank you for this.
Raise the mic a bit, Rajiv.
Space. So my thoughts really went to, of course, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because today, on the global stage, he perhaps best embodies, personifies, and holds aloft the flag for the Nalanda tradition. And he is always reaffirms his profound commitment to the Indo-Tibetan civilizational heritage and to the Nalanda tradition in particular. I think that the genius of Buddhism as manifest in the Nalanda tradition goes back to the Buddha himself. And that it was the Buddha who set the benchmarks for the evolutionary nature of Buddhism that enabled a university like Nalanda to come into being and push the boundaries of understanding and practice of Buddhism further. And I think the genesis of this, again, manifest in the teachings and practices and approach at Nalanda, was then when the Buddha attained enlightenment. And traditionally, what was enlightenment? For us, it was really an insight, an experiential insight into the true nature of reality. And that true nature of reality was non-conceptual because it was experienced. So he sought to put it in words. And I think that is the aspiration, or was the aspiration of Nalanda University, the ancient university in scholarship, one that we have sadly lost today in our universities. And while we celebrate the idea and the potential and the possibility and the impact that the Nalanda University has made, and pray that the new Nalanda University will play that kind of role, I think we simultaneously, the learning from that is that what are we doing with our universities today, and to what degree are they following the traditions of Nalanda that we have so inherited. And I think that some of the European universities, and certainly Oxford and Cambridge, for example, beat us to it, that post-Nalanda, they have embodied that tradition, of the tutorial system, and we've heard much about the importance of debate. And since debating is still a very important aspect of the practice of Tibetan monastics, it is extremely important that we are not influenced by the Western notions of debate, where two people take positions and one comes out the victor. So there is no victor in the Nalanda tradition of debate. It is basically to reach out to each other's logical inconsistencies where they exist, so that a process of clarification takes place for the participants in the debate. So it is the attitude with which, of humility, that this is approached. And so it is that we are looking to nurture in our constituencies, not the certitude and arrogance that comes from winning a debate. And the other important feature of Nalanda was, as far as debating was concerned, that the debates were not just engaged in with the converted. The debates were engaged with people from diverse backgrounds and traditions, so that they remained accessible and comprehensible and stood the test of reason and logic as that discourse unfolded. And this goes back again to the Buddha. So when the Buddha emerged from experiencing the true nature of reality, he struggled with himself. How am I going to share this? Because in the Mahayana tradition, which we come from, which I certainly, His Holiness comes from, the aspiration for enlightenment is not moksha, which is breaking out of the cycle of birth and rebirth, which is the traditional Hindu approach to it, nothing wrong with it, but to be able to steer one's consciousness at the time of birth to consciously take rebirth in order to teach and serve humanity. So this again governs the doctrine at Nalanda, is that the motivation for wisdom is to teach and serve humanity. It is not wisdom for its own sake. And so the Buddha started the tradition of the experiential learning because he felt that purely a verbalized, articulated learning was not enough to be a transformational experience. So when we say experiential learning, what do we mean? It's not just, for example, that I have a friend here who loves Coca-Cola, but if I were to try and explain the taste of Coca-Cola, I'd fail unless you too had experienced it. So I could till doomsday use verbal gymnastics to be able to try and communicate it, but I couldn't till I experienced it. So in the evolutionary nature of Buddhism, the Buddha himself mandated it. And so when he was asked, when Ananda speaks to the Buddha as he's dying, and the Buddha says, look, you will attain enlightenment only when I have passed on, because you are too attached to me. But he also said, my fellow monks, you must subject all my teachings to reason, logic, and experience. So it's all three. You cannot purely rely on experience unless it is also circumscribed by reason and logic. Now, why is that? That is because when we confront challenges or a threat to us that may manifest in anger, we have to be able to understand it deeply so that our reflex response is limited. So it's not something that is preserved for the elites. And of course, as we know, and this is not the context to go into the debate between Adi Shankara and the Buddha and what really happened. So really making a case for the idea of a university that Nalanda was, and the spirit of it, the manner in which it celebrated diversity. It embraced diversity, because Nagarjuna, not only did he talk about the aspect of shunya and emptiness of inherent existence, and as Mr. Carpenter very eloquently pointed to, but he also spoke about the two truths, the absolute truth and the relative truth. And the minute you're willing to accept that there can be more than one truth, that opens you up to the celebration of diversity. And it is that commitment to diversity and the training of the mind that the Dalai Lama today embodies, and it is what enabled him to go to a mosque and perform the namaz, to go to a temple and do the arti, or go to a church and sing a Christian hymn. And to recount an incident, that we were at Ajmer Sharif when the Dalai Lama went, visited there, and he prostrated before the tomb of Khwaja Sahib, and he woke up with a glow on his face, and he said, I've experienced the divine. And so when we said, but you're an agnostic, how could you experience the divine? He said, I experience what it must feel like to experience the divine. The reason I emphasize this is to really respond to the question that we ask ourselves very often: how and why is the Nalanda tradition valid and relevant today? It is in these forms that it manifests itself. And when we say and let's not forget that Aryabhat wasn't a Buddhist scholar. So he represented the diversity of the Nalanda tradition. And don't forget the famous gatekeeper that you refer to in your book, that in order to gain admission, you didn't have to do a multi-choice question for which you were coached. You actually had a gatekeeper who engaged in a minor debate with you and an intellectual engagement. And if he felt that you had the intellectual ability, you were in. It didn't have to do with the amount of knowledge you had, how much coaching you'd had. So that the very premise, the very structures were able to so powerfully embrace it. And so today we have, again, as Mr. Carpenter alluded to, is not just an engagement with science, but the Dalai Lama saying that if science is able to disprove some of our hypotheses, we will discard it. So it is not merely looking for the validation of ancient knowledge by scientific, and to say that 100 years ago we had achieved this, and so we hold on to that in our innate superiority. So the ability to embrace unfolding contemporary knowledge is an essential aspect of the Nalanda tradition, so that each practitioner there was open. Knowledge was not frozen in the textbooks or the teachings that had preceded them. And hence, I think the great attraction today of Buddhism and the Nalanda tradition is the evolutionary aspect. So today you have Buddhism without beliefs. You have secular Buddhism. You have so many varieties of Buddhist practices which have adapted to today's needs and imperatives. And just going back to the allusion to only 2 minutes, to the preservation of the Nalanda tradition in Tibet. We mustn't forget that a lot of early Buddhism, as Abhay K talks about, traveled on the backs of traders. So it was basically the scriptures, it was Buddhist knowledge. But what traveled to Tibet was the wisdom and the practice. It was the practitioners who traveled to Tibet. And so the Tibetan language expanded or reinvented itself to be able to assimilate that, and that has now returned to India with the Dalai Lama, and at institutions such as the Central Institute of Tibetan Studies is now being re-articulated, its verbal aspects. So I've got my signal that I've spoken too much. Brevity is the soul of wit. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.